Welcome, I'm David,
I'm Lindsay,
and this is Desmonds Donders. And welcome to a Wednesday Waffle Christmas special. No, I haven't got things wrong. Well, not completely. I haven't gone completely mad. It is, yes, the 28th of February, and it is a Christmas special. It's neither early or late. It is precisely when I wanted it to happen. Okay, it's purely by random, like all my other videos. But I couldn't have done it any earlier because the prize I won back in December has just arrived. And it consists of a lovely mug from Donley Cove, some offcuts which have the emblem of Donley Cove, and this one is a Christmas bell, bauble. So there you go, for Donley Cove. Now what is Donley Cove? Well, Donley Cove is Sean and Marion Donley's latest escapade, if you like. They are restoring some land that's theirs. It's been in the family, and they're turning it into a place where they can go and hide and relax away from the pressures of jobs. Also, Marion has some health problems, and it's a great place. It's going to be a great place for her to rest and recuperate. It's winter at the moment, so not a lot is going on, but I would encourage you to go over there and see them at Donley Cove. I would also say you may well know them as Our Haunted Travels, Panic D. Yeah, it's that Sean and Marion. Anyway, the links will be below for both channels, but I also won this. I'm hoping you can read it if I get it in the right place. It's a piece of Santa's boot. You're talking about a piece of Santa's boot. It's an official piece of Santa's boot. Well, here I'm going to read to you the story of Santa's boots by Edward Hinklemeyer from the Department of Elfland Security. The following is the story behind this piece of Santa's boots that you now hold in your hand, as it was documented by Santa's head elf. It was an early spring morning at the North Pole. Santa received word from the workshop that they needed to find a new area soon for harvesting pine trees. Pine tree forests are used to make the toys and wrapping paper at the workshop. He knew that a few years ago there was a new forest planted with some magic dust that would make them mature quicker. But he had not been there to that area of the North Pole in quite some time. After breakfast he told Mrs. Claus and he was going for a walk out to see that area to see if it was ready for harvesting. It would be a good day to have him out of the house, since that day was a day scheduled for mopping and polishing the floors. Santa found the area with no issue and checked with the wildlife living there to make sure that they would have sufficient areas that they could move into before he would give the approval for the elves to come and start the harvest. He was making his way back and while not paying attention, he walked right into a swampy area, filling his boots with mucky, muddy water. He had to slosh his way back to his cabin. As he approached, Mrs. Claus saw him walking funny down the path, and she ran out on the porch and yelled out to him, asking why he was walking so funny. He told her that had happened, and she immediately replied, "Oh, my icicles, Nicholas. Make sure you take those boots off on the porch before coming into my nicely newly cleaned floors, or there'll be no cookies for you." When Santa hears this tone from Mrs. Claus, he knows she means business, and he better listen to what she is saying. He did not want Mrs. Claus to be unhappy, so he certainly listened and took off his wet and muddy boots. He left them out on the porch to dry out. That night he forgot about his boots on the porch all night, and when he woke up the next morning to go to the workshop, he remembered his boots were out on the steps. He finished up his breakfast and headed out, but his boots were gone. Santa and Mrs. Claus looked everywhere for those boots, but they could not be found. Santa had to call down the cobblers to get a new pair made. Of course, he was none too happy, since he had those boots pretty well broken in to his feet. Several years passed, and the memory of those boots had faded. A young man was looking at shoes in a second-hand store and found some very large black boots that seemed like they were covered with mud at one time. Someone had cleaned them up fairly well. He picked them up to get a closer look at them, and they looked well broken in, and thought they would be great for a customer or something. When he turned them over to look at the soles, there was a symbol on the bottom. He could not make it out too clearly, since it was worn off, but when he rubbed it with his thumb, it had an SC on the heel and said, "Made by Josh Snowflake Darlington, North Pole City Cobbler." The young man found this extremely peculiar and thought that they might be just a bit special, so he decided to purchase them for $1 and took them home. A few more weeks went by, and the young man remembered the boots, and though he couldn't find out more about them, he took to the internet and could not find anything about a Josh Darlington of North Pole City. He kept looking and searching and went down to the local library even to ask the librarian to help him to find out more information, but neither of them was successful. Not knowing where to go from here, and thinking that these boots were now just something he found in a thrift shop, he almost gave up until one of his friends came over to his house. His friend saw the black boots sitting in the corner and started asking about them. The young man told him how he came to have those boots and showed him the symbol on the bottom. He told him the whole story and told him how he tried to find out more about the cobbler that made the boots. Jokingly, his friend suggested, well, maybe he should write a letter to Santa and ask him if he lost his boots. Later that night, when his friend had gone home, the young man sat on his couch staring at the boots, and he thought, millions of kids around the world write letters to Santa Claus. Maybe I'll give it a shot. That night he fell asleep thinking of how he could word the letter. He didn't want to get lost with the others telling Santa what they wanted for Christmas. But then again, maybe that would be a great way to get someone's attention. All he really wanted for Christmas was to find out more about the boots. He got up the next morning and wrote his letter. On the envelope he wrote, "Urgent, to Santa Claus, North Pole City." He didn't take a chance. He took the letter himself right to the post office to make sure it was sent. A week later, the young man received a handwritten letter in the mail. The letter confirmed that these boots did in fact belong to Santa at some point. The letter ended, "If you leave the boots out for me on Christmas Eve, I will pick them up during my rounds. Thank you ever so much for finding my boots. And I will make it well worth your while to leave them out for me. Signed, SC." Thinking that his friend was probably playing a trick on him, he really wasn't sure the letter was legitimate or not, but he did leave the boots out by his Christmas tree on Christmas Eve. When the young man woke up for Christmas, he found another envelope sitting where his boots had been, addressed to him. He quickly opened it, and though it is not documented what he received as a gift, there was a thank you note and a gift that would change the young man's life forever. In other words, it was a very special and important gift. It is not exactly just certain how just Santa's boots were originally removed from his porch and ended up on the lower 48. However, we can share with you now you are holding a piece in his hand. When Santa came back to the North Pole, he met Edward Hinklemeyer, and Santa told him, "I have my new boots and here are my old ones. I want you to create a magical gift out of these to help spread the word about the Christmas spirit to those all over the world." Edward got together with some other elves and they came up with this commemorative frame that has an actual piece of Santa's old boots. The glitter on the frame is to draw your attention to the piece in hopes that you will always remember to spread Christmas spirit and joy to everyone you know. The picture of the bow is to remind you that the present is a gift and you should make the most of it. Always, even when times may be tough. Finally, the piece of Santa's boots is to remind you of the endearment and wonderment of Christmas past, full of love, merriment, and that memories will always come back to you like Santa's boots did to him. So make a wonderful memory each day. And there, just to remind you, is my piece of Santa's boots. So go and check out Sean and Marianne's 2 channels, but not before you've liked, subscribed, etc. to mine. If there's plenty of time after this, I'll put on a bit of drone footage, as is usual for a Wednesday waffle. We're out making memories. Bye for now. Thank you for watching Desmonds Donders. And whatever you're doing in the countryside, please take nothing but memories and leave nothing but tracks. Please subscribe and ring that bell to be notified of our future videos.